Board of Trustees of the Harris County Department of Education is now convened in a regular board meeting on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025 in room 401 at 6300 Irvington Boulevard, Houston, Texas at 1:03 p.m. We wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present at this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personal appointments, and set policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the department are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to agenda items on today's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by section 551.071 to 551.084, inclusive of the Texas Government Code. I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking time today to join us and for your interest in the Harris County Department of Education. So we will begin with invocation. And we have Venetia. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Did you know that the second Friday of each January is known as National Quitters Day because research shows that's when most people have abandoned their New Year's resolutions? Our resolutions are not about perfection, but taking the first steps towards fulfilling dreams, developing talents, or overcoming obstacles. The process can be tough, but persistence is what counts. For example, when I leave HCDE at the end of the day to go home and I'm sitting in rush hour traffic, I might say to myself, this is taking too long, I wish I had taken another route, or this is frustrating. However, I have never said, this is too hard, I'm going back to HCDE. As much as I like HCD, which, shameless plug, has been voted a top workplace for several years, seeing my family is my ultimate goal, so I press through the traffic. I encourage you to stick with your resolutions, even if it means restarting until you're consistent. I leave you with one of my favorite quotes to encourage you on the journey. Great it is to dream the dream when you stand in youth by the starry stream. But a greater thing is to fight life through and say at the end, the dream is true. Thank you.
And next we have the Pledge of Allegiance with Sharvandi Pipkins Kamaya.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
So we do not have any open forum, public participation, so we'll move on to financial management report for 2024. Report.
Okay, this is the annual financial management report summary. There's a copy of the presentation in front of you. Basically, the purpose of School First Rank, which It is generally for school districts, but we adapted to Harris County Department of Ed. Ensures that entities will be held accountable for their financial management practices, achieve improvement performance in the management of financial resources, and discloses the quality of local management and decision-making that impact the allocation of financial resources. Encourages entities to manage their financial resources as better. It was started in 2001 at the 77th legislature and continues on embedded under the Title 19 of the Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 109. Some of the required disclosures include the superintendent's contract in the report, reimbursements for various mileage, lodging, and so on for the board members and superintendent, the amount of compensation fees received by superintendent, number of gifts valued at $250 or more declared by the board members, amount of business transactions between HCDE and each board member, and then a summary of schedule of data submitted under the financial solvency provisions on the Education Code, Chapter 390822. This is the summary schedule by board member, and you have a copy of that in your packet. There are 20 indicators. Out of those, 16 are applicable to Harris County Department of Education, and 15 were met. The first one is, was the CAFR completed in a timely manner? And the answer is yes. It's being submitted today for your approval. Financial indicator number 2, unmodified opinion in the annual comprehensive annual financial report. The indicator was met, and you will see that in the audit being presented later on today. Excuse me. Was the department in compliance with the payment terms of all debts at year end? The answer is yes. Department followed all agreements, FY 24 and 23. Did the department make timely payments for TRS, TWC, IRS, and other governmental agencies? The answer is yes. All payments were made in a timely manner. Indicator number 5, which is the only one that we don't meet, is the unrestricted net position balance statement of net position greater than 0. And this one had been suspended by TEA, but however, based on the fact that we have to include pension liability from TRS, that puts the unrestricted net position in a negative way. And so you will see that in the annual report when that is presented. Indicator number 6, the average change over the last 3 years, less than a 25% decrease in the assigned and unassigned fund balance exceeds 75 days of operational expenditures. There was not a decrease, it was actually an increase of 11%. Indicator number 7 was the number of days on cash on hand and investments in the general fund sufficient to cover the operating expenditures. Last year we were at 126, this year we're a strong 176 days. Indicator number 8, the ratio between current assets and liabilities. Again, 4-to-1 last year, again stronger at 6-to-1, which is a lot of entities are barely sometimes at 2 or 3, and we're at 6-to-1 at this point in time. Indicator number 9, general fund expenditures equal or exceed the expenditures excluding facilities acquisition and construction. And we had $5 million excess this year. Last year was 2.9, and so the indicator was met. The average, number 10, the average less than 10% variance in budget. The average for this year was minus 1%. That was basically a savings. Indicator number 11, long-term liabilities to total assets. We're at a 62%, basically can cover our liabilities at 60% ratio, a little bit higher than a year ago. Was the correlation between future debt requirements and assessed property value? Again, this was met also at 1.87%. Indicator 13, 14, 15, and 16, because they are student-based, they're not applicable to Harris County Department of Education. Indicator number 17, did you disclose any material weaknesses in internal controls? Again, you will hear the presentation later on today, but no disclosure is being presented. So we met that indicator. Indicator number 18, did the external auditor indicate free for instances of material noncompliance in grants, contracts, laws, local, state, or federal funds? Again, the indicator was met. The report did not identify any instances of material noncompliance for both years. Indicator number 19, did we post all the required information on our website? Yes, all the information was posted. In fact, we received 4 stars as a result of that from the controller's office. And then number 20, the department's board members discussed the property values at a board meeting within 120 days before the budget was adopted. And the answer was yes, it was discussed prior to that and then adopted on July 29, 2024. That's the information, and at this point in time, it's just open it up for public comment, and then after that, close the hearing, and then go on with a regular meeting.
Okay, we're going to open that up to public comment. If there's anyone who'd like to say anything in response. Okay, if not, then we'll then go ahead and close at 1:14 p.m. All right, so we'll move on to reports and presentations with recognition of Board Appreciation Month. So, Ms.
Thank you, President Hinojosa, members of the board, Mr. Colbert. As you know, January is the month when we recognize you, our Board of Trustees, for all of the selfless work that you and dedication that you show to our students and our staff and our client districts. So COMS put together a short video to honor and recognize you.
As school board members, your selfless act of volunteering countless hours and championing the efforts of this organization is beyond commendable. In each January, we take a moment to honor your wisdom, dedication, and vision. The work you do does not go unnoticed. Your role is critical to the success of HCDE. From school board meetings to public events, you have responsibilities beyond your day-to-day lives. So we want to take a moment to say, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To our school board members, thank you for your service, your commitment, and your heart for education. Your impact extends far beyond the boardroom. It transforms lives. You exemplify the leadership for tomorrow's Texas. Thank you, HCDE board members.
I would also like to give special recognition to our special schools. As you've seen at your stations, our gifts have put together some custom-made gifts for y'all. And just once again, thank you for everything that you do for the Department of Education, and we really appreciate you. And with that, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we will move on to Employee of the Month.
Good afternoon, President Hinojosa, Board of Trustees, Mr. Colbert. Today, we honor Mr. Thomas Platt, HCDE's Fixed Asset Clerk, as our January 2025 Employee of the Month. Thomas is a chameleon, changing throughout the years to adapt to the needs of HCDE. When he started in the organization more than 30 years ago, it was in the finance division using his accounting degree as he reconciled accounts payable and receivable. Over the years, this talent has grown and expanded, and his talents really started to show when he created the system to track HCDE's fixed assets. I highly recommend Thomas for his exceptional initiative. He consistently goes above and beyond in managing fixed assets, particularly during complex projects like the administrative building renovation, wrote Joe Carrion, Director of Construction, in his nomination. While others overlook essential details, Thomas took it upon himself to update the fixed access logs, ensuring all obsolete IT equipment was properly documented. Thomas has reinvented the fixed asset tracking system twice during his tenure with HCDE. Once when Head Start was formed 25 years ago, and then again when HCDE moved to electronic scanning tags. Today, he is known as the man behind the asset tag in the video created to show HCDE staff the appropriate way to transfer fixed assets between divisions. He consistently steps up to support others and share his knowledge. A perfect example of this is when he took the initiative to train our school principals at the annual principals meeting, ensuring they had the tools and understanding needed to manage fixed assets effectively, Mr. Carrion explained. His proactive approach not only strengthens team collaboration, but also empowers others by providing clear guidance and support. But his attention to detail does not stop at logging HCDE's equipment. At home, Thomas focuses his attention on growing pineapples, having visited the Dole plantation in Hawaii to find the best growing techniques. Our comms team created a short video about Thomas and his unique approach to his job.
Deep in the bowels of HCDE's North Post Oak building lies a land of surplus equipment and furniture where the out of commission, overused, and obsolete are rehomed for recycling.
There's just so much responsibility, so much history, so much of what day to day we do here at HCDE that encompasses what he does.
That he is Mr. Thomas Plapp. Thomas is the fixed assets clerk for HCDE.
I have been with HCDE for a little over 30 years.
Thomas is one of those employees that you can't live without. And if I were to have to step in and do his job, I'd be in no world of trouble.
Thomas got his teaching degree and then decided to get a second degree in accounting, allowing him to get his start with business services.
When I first came to HCDE, one of my jobs was reconciling all the bank statements for HCDE.
He then made the move to facilities, where he would create and perfect the process of tracking assets for HCDE.
For the first 6 years, I was able to do the inventory process in just 3 months. After 2000, I had to reinvent the whole process because with all the growth and when HCDE took on Head Start, I just really had to reinvent things and the way I did it.
Thomas is definitely responsible for all the protocols and processes that we have in place for fixed assets. When he's focused on his job, it's very hard to have a personal conversation, but I found that Thomas has a personality where he enjoys going to Colorado, he enjoys gardening.
Speaking of gardening, not just any type of garden.
I started growing pineapples in 2014 when a friend of my wife's gave us 2 plants, but the whole thing was really more of an experiment for the first 2 or 3 years.
Apart from growing the perfect pineapple and poring over all his fixed assets spreadsheets, he enjoys a good get-together.
I do like getting together for the holiday parties.
And it's at those get-togethers where new friends are made.
It's just been amazing, absolutely amazing getting to know him.
And people find out Thomas is a jack of all trades.
At one of the parties downstairs, he brought lemon bars. So we talked about the recipe. He made them and we tasted them. They were really good. We just love him, absolutely love him.
As one of the employees with the most years at HCDE, Thomas, we salute you for your exceptional work.
And I can tell you that Thomas is 1 in a million.
I am pleased to introduce to you Mr. Thomas Plapp, the January 2025 Employee of the Month. Congratulations.
hold on. Don't go anywhere yet, Thomas. I'd just like to say, Ms. Platt, your husband has almost waited for me at my car before. What Joe said is true. I mean, he will wait for you. I've had him on my list before to bring my laptop to get labeled, and he will wait in that lobby, and he's not going anywhere until he finds that laptop. So I just want to tell you how much we appreciate you and thank you for what you do. And really, let's give him a hand for 30 years at Harris County.
Okay, so we will now move on to the superintendent's monthly report.
Thank you, President Hinojosa. I just have 3 things to update the board on. Really 3 dates. The first one you'll find we have a ribbon cutting ceremony for Coolwood, which will be tomorrow from 3 to 5. Finally, Coolwood is ready to go, and we've gotten all of our certification and licensing to start getting students and adults in there. It's a fantastic facility. But more than anything, it's just such a contrast to what Coolwood used to look like. And, you know, I'll say this tomorrow when I speak, but when I first got here, Coolwood was the first facility I ever saw. And we weren't off to a great start on my impressions of Harris County facilities. I mean, it was terrible. And so Harvey didn't help that. And it's come a long ways, and now it's beautiful. And I think it's well deserving for the students that are going to be out there. I also like to bring your attention to, you should have a card here for our Early Childhood Winter Conference, which will be on January 25th. As you know, we've done this for years. We'll have somewhere in around 500 educators there that take their Saturday just to try to extend their learning and become better instructors for our little ones. It's always an exciting conference. That conference will happen at the Kingdom Builders Center. They'll open the doors at 7. But kickoff will be around 8 a.m. And finally, Texas has one of the largest conferences, I think, in the country for educators, and it's called the Midwinter Conference. Every single year, so many thousands of educators get together and in Austin and have really a fantastic conference. And so there are a lot of our ELT members that will be there, but along with leadership team members that will be there. And I even think we have 1 or 2 people who may be presenting. That conference will be from January 26th to 29th. That's all I have.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to take a point of privilege, if there's no objections, to move action item, non-consensus action item 8.1 up to the agenda, up to this point in the agenda, if there's no objections. Okay. So we have action item non-consensus 8.1, consider the approval of the 2023-24 annual financial audit, including required annual single audit report, the fund balance categories and amounts as presented in the report and in the attached resolutions for committed fund balance. The audit was conducted by Whitley Penn.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Ms. Alina Cereces with Whitley Penn. She's our external auditor. She'll be doing the presentation for you.
Thank you, Dr. Amezcua. President Hinojosa, Mr. Colbert, and members of the board, thank you for having me here today. Laura Lynch and I met with the audit committee yesterday to go over in detail the audit, and we'll go over the highlights here today. But I just want to thank Laura Lynch. She did the heavy lifting and worked with your management team, Dr. Amezcua, Marcelieva, and she did the heavy lifting as well. So kudos to your management team for all the hard work to get us here at this point. So I'll discuss the audit process as we go. As you know, the purpose of our audit is to issue an opinion on the financial statements given to you by your management team. And I believe they flagged a few pages for you as well to review at your leisure, and I'll hit the highlights as we go through it. But of course, there's 3 types of opinions that you can receive, and every entity wants an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion, but it does take some work to get there. And so this is the process that you have to undergo in order for us to issue an opinion, which is here this afternoon. It started with planning in the summertime, May, June timeframe. We come on site, begin our internal control work, identifying the key controls, then testing those controls, and not just over your financial statements, but also over your federal programs that we determined as major. And then after the department closes its books, we perform our substantive testing, which I have a separate slide to go into that detail. All of that is required in order for us to issue that opinion. The controls that we focus on include payroll and human resources, and I hit that first just because that is the majority of your expenditures here at the department. Then procurement and non-payroll are looked at simultaneously, obviously with different requirements, state and federal. And then information technology feeds all of the various departments, and without the proper controls, then those various areas affected by IT would be compromised as well. So it's important that we look at that information and the controls over that area. And finally, the other revenues, which includes the revenues charged to choice partners for your cooperative purchasing, or purchasing cooperative, your specialty schools, and other revenues that are collected by the department. The substantive procedures start with a flux analysis, what changed from the prior year. We move on to a ratio analysis, start digging a little bit deeper. We perform predictive tests, looking at the last year trends and seeing, for example, property taxes, looking at the levy that we confirm, looking at the appraisal values that we confirm, then predicting what should the collection rate be based on the last 10 years. And then we determine what was the actual, or we compare that to the actual collection rate to give us comfort on that. We spend a lot of time vouching, meaning we look at invoices on the disbursement side, but also on the receipt, the bank side as well, especially for the tuition and fees that are assessed to various entities that participate or receive the department's services. Finally, we do confirm with third parties for your cash, investments, your bonds. And then we have access to third-party reports, such as the TEA payment report that is accessible to the public, but we can run reports to verify the information that is in your revenue accounts. So without further ado, you have earned an unmodified opinion over the financial statements. You don't have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, nor any findings related to state matters. And I will say that as we see the controls that are in place, I don't know if you've ever seen your procedure manual, but it's well over 1,000 pages. And so but that's for your safety, right? That's for for the protection of the department. And Sarah, your general counsel, like myself, we share that with entities across the United States, actually, as an example. We always say it doesn't have to be 1,400 pages long, but it's a great starting point. So you have a great team that provides that, and we always use you as an example because your controls are very strong, but that protects you. And so that's the way that you can keep the department, one, out of trouble, and then also ensure that the financial statements are properly stated and the users can rely on the information. So kudos to your team once again for earning that clean, unmodified opinion. So excellent work. The federal programs also require that we perform a single audit. So you spent $35 million in fiscal year 2024. This year we tested 3 programs totaling $26.7 million, and that includes the Head Start cluster, your County Connections, which is part of the last tranche of COVID funds or under ARPA, and then the 21st Century Community Learning Centers. As we are issuing an unmodified opinion as well over each of these federal programs with no compliance or internal control findings to report. So again, the controls in place helps you ensure that you have compliance. Without controls, then compliance is at risk. Any questions before I move on to the financial highlights?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Now, you've been doing our audits for quite some time, haven't you? Selena.
Yes, sir.
You've done a fantastic job, too. I just wanted to tell you that.
Thank you.
But you mentioned that, what was our rating that we got?
A clean opinion, unmodified, which is the highest level of assurance.
It's the highest?
Highest. Clean.
And so every year we go through this, where we want to add to that title of how exceptional that is.
That's
and
correct.
every year I have to try to get you to say exceptional. It's exceptional, right?
It's exceptional.
Thank you. In fact, even in the audit committee yesterday, I said, now you can do yourself a favor by saying exceptional without me having to say anything, and then I'm going to shut up. And she didn't say it. But you also mentioned something, that you use our systems as an example.
Correct.
And I'd like to point that out to the board, because what I pointed out yesterday in the audit committee is that us being able to attain that rating is a byproduct of systems. And it's not only systems, but it's people honoring those systems and implementing the systems. And I also mentioned how much, people get angry at Dr. Amesqua. We troll him sometimes and make fun of him of all the forms you got to fill out for a pencil or an eraser, and it may take 6 or 7 months and this, that, and the other. But while you're complaining about that, just know you're feeling the benefits of a system and that we're going to get an exceptional, unmodified opinion, right, Selena?
That's correct.
All right. I'm sorry. You can keep
No.
going. Thank you. I'm good now. I was
You're fine.
confused.
Oh God, I'm like, oh my God.
Exceptional.
Now we're going to move into the financial statement highlights, and this is looking at the net worth of the department. So if you were a for-profit entity, a corporation, this is what your financial statements would look like. Very different from the fund financial statements, such as the general fund or your federal funds that are reported separately. This statement includes your capital assets as well as your long-term liabilities. So your total assets and deferred outflows total $211.8 million, and two financial statement line items make up the bulk of that, capital assets being one of them at $121.3 million, and then cash and cash equivalents at $58.9 million. This year you did, in fiscal year 24, you issued your maintenance tax notes, which that cash is in those cash accounts as well as you start spending. Of course, that the liability is out there as well on your financial statement, so your total liabilities and deferred inflows totaled $156.1 million, and there's three items that make up that total, with bonds being $63.5 million, and the net pension and net OPEB liabilities at $14.1 and $27.7 million. The net pension liability is the retirement accounts of your current employees. And then the OPEB is other post-employment benefits. So those are the healthcare benefits that are provided to your retirees through the Teacher Retirement System of Texas. These liabilities are your proportionate share, and the way that's calculated is the department's contributions divided by the contributions of all participants in TRS. You'll see on the left-hand side of the slide that I have a double asterisk that indicates this is not a cash liability. This is not like bonds, accounts payable, where you'll have to write a check for these liabilities. Again, this is the state's liability, and you're simply recognizing your share. If we were a city or a county or somewhere else in a different part of the United States where you have one single pension and one single OPEB, where it is that responsibility of the government, that would be a different story. But in the state of Texas, we have a different plan where the liability belongs to the state. If that plan were to fail at the state, then we would have to revisit this. But TRS is very well funded where we don't have to worry about that. Moving into the general fund, we'll start where we started the year. Your beginning fund balance was $25.7 million. You generated $66.6 million, which was $1.4 million than what you had expected. Your actual expenditures totaled $61.6 million, and you came under budget by $5.3 million. Before any transfers, and those transfers meaning that which you received from Choice Partners, your purchasing cooperative, and then the transfers out totaled $5 million. The choice partners made a little bit under $8 million this year, and then you transferred a little under $5 million to the PFC, or the Public Financing Corporation, to make the debt service payments on your bonds. So that added an additional $3.9 million for a total increase in fund balance of $8.9 million. So your total ending fund balance is $34.6 million. Now, when we dissect the fund balance totals, you'll see that it's made of four components, and I think Dr. Amesco has Legos as well to illustrate that for you all. Has some charts there. He likes manipulatives. But what TRS likes to focus on, as well as rating agencies, not TRS, TEA, and rating agencies like to focus on, is the assigned and unassigned categories. The reason being is that those are not committed by the board, like the $3 million, nor are there any restrictions from outside parties. So the assigned fund balance, if you want to know what is in that, it's on page 19 of your ACFR, and Exhibit B1, and you can refer to that later, but you've set aside $9.1 million for very specific activities in the next year. For example, the largest of that is about $4.6 million for next year's debt service payment that you have to transfer. So setting that aside so that everyone knows, okay, $4.6 million is going to be due for that debt service payment. So when you aggregate those two, the assigned and unassigned, that totals $31.4 million, and that equates to 186 days of expenditures. So the danger zone for the department, if you were to continue to spend at the rate that you spent in fiscal year 2024, would be $5.1 million. And then about $15 to $16 million is the recommended, and that's Government Finance Officers Association recommendation. You're not like you know that you're not like a school district where you receive state aid based on enrollment or average daily attendance. So your property taxes don't start trickling in until December, January timeframe. So you have from September to December to use the cash flow and fund balance that is available for those 4 months. So it's necessary to have that available. In addition, we mentioned that this year you spent $35 million in federal funds. All of these federal funds are on a reimbursement basis, meaning the general fund has to pay for it first, then you request reimbursement. These are not advanced payment types of grants. So all of this is needed. So you have the assigned fund balance for future projects and future liabilities that are coming up. And then you have your unassigned as well that can be appropriated by your management team as well. Any comments on that or questions? Okay. On the next slide, we'll go over general fund revenue. You have two main revenue generating activities. Obviously, property taxes, it's slightly increased, and that's simply due to your values. You did decrease your tax rate slightly, but the values increased that you were still able to bring a little bit under $3 million. Tuition and fees did increase a little under $5 million, and then you have other which includes TRS on behalf, which is not cash, but it's just your recognition of what TRS is contributing on behalf of the department's employees, as well as interest earnings. Revenue totaled $61.6 million, so a slight increase from the prior year. On this next slide, on the general fund expenditures, again, expenditures increased slightly by about $5 million, not slightly, $5 million, but you'll see that the bulk of that increase is in your school-based therapy services and special school and services as well. And so that's where the bulk of your expenditures are going to. But if you look at your tuition and fees, that's where you're generating your fees as well. So it makes sense for that. The last slide is showing the trend of expenditures as well as assigned and unassigned fund balance. And that you'll see as the blue line, which are your expenditures, continues to increase, your fund balances is also beginning to increase. And yesterday, when we were diving into the financial statements, fiscal year 2024 was the largest profit, if you will, that the choice partners earned. And so because it transferred almost $8 million, that was the largest since 2019. And actually 2019 was under $6 million. So this is the largest year of profit. So that's why you'll see that increase to come into fiscal year 2024. So again, you're trending in the right direction where your expenditures increase, but you continue to maintain that fund balance at the necessary levels. Any questions?
No questions from the board? Trustee?
Well, I certainly want to acknowledge the outstanding service that we are provided by Whitley Penn. I know firsthand, Selena, what you do. Selena Cetis, best in the business. I've known Selena for a number of years. And so really appreciative to you and Laura. Please extend our appreciation to Laura, the work that she's done in the cooperation and collaboration with staff. And tremendous job, Dr. Mesqua and team, Slava, Johnson, the entire team. Just unqualified opinions and no material weaknesses and all of those things, internal controls, those don't just happen. That's a lot of work involved in keeping us at a really, at that highest level, exceptional, highest, I was gonna use that word, exceptional level, and it is really deeply appreciated. I can sleep well at night knowing that Whitley Penn is taking a look at our books and also the systems that we have in place. So thank you really for your hard work, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the audit? Moved by Trustee McGee, seconded by Trustee Dick. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 6-0. And on to the annual division update. Center for Grants Department.
Hello, and Happy New Year, and Happy Board Appreciation Month. To President Hinojosa, Superintendent Colbert, and others on the dais, I'm Joyce Akins, Director of the Center for Grants Development, and I'm pleased to give you this year in review of the Grants Office. First, let's meet the Grants team. Will y'all stand, please? So this is a photo of the team with our Team Focus Assistant Superintendent for Education and Enrichment, Dr. C.J. Rogers. Others in the picture we have from left to right, yours truly, Almo Choa, Secretary, Crystal Frazier, Development Prospect Researcher, Dr. Vita L. Avery, Manager, Sharvon Pipkins Kamaya, Resource Development Specialist, and Venetia Baldwin, Development Coordinator. So the mission of the Grants Office is to implement diversified funding strategies to help enhance or expand HCDE's programs and services. And we do this in several ways, primarily through grants and bids, and also by supplementing Division's efforts to acquire donations, sponsorships, and volunteers for certain programs such as CASE's EcoBot Challenge. We also use our skills to assist divisions with special projects such as scoring writing entries for the Scholastic Art and Writing Competition. In FY24, we served the 9 divisions you see listed here with a mixture of grant applications, bids, soliciting donations, sponsorships, volunteers, and special projects that I mentioned earlier. Preparing grant applications and bids can be quite involved and requires the support of many HCDE divisions. Starting with grant staff working closely with the program division, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the divisions that assist us along the way with information, signatures, budget approvals, social media shout-outs, reliable technology for online submissions. It really does take a village. So here's our our dashboard that offers a quick glance at our work for the year. On the top left, we have the number of proposals submitted at 35 for a total of $34.6 million in grant submissions. The top middle, it shows the number of grants awarded at 21 for a total of $29.8 million. And of the 35 grants submitted, we had an 86% success rate last year. On the top far right, it shows our donations and sponsorships acquired, and the bottom row shows the bids and grant-related services for other divisions in the community. So this is a closer look at the types of grants we submitted. The pie chart shows a mixture of federal, state, and local, foundations, corporations, and it also includes bids. The grants awarded, Head Start is always the big winner, with continuation applications for both Head Start and Early Head Start, as well as private sector grants for the Super Mentor and Read and Rise programs. The 11 proposals we submitted yielded $19 million. Adult Ed received grants totaling $6.2 million from the Texas Workforce Commission for their programs. Case for Kids, $3.5 million, represents grants from TEA's 21st Century Cycle 11 Year 4 and Cycle 12 Year 2 applications, and also the private sector grants from Henderson Foundation and Centerpoint Energy for the EcoBot Challenge, and a grant from TDECU for Kids Day Entrepreneurship. The Center for Safe and Secure Schools received a $930,000 grant from the U.S. Department of Justice to implement a behavioral threat assessment program over 3 years. And School-Based Therapy Services received a grant from the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities to help cover expenses for training, and the Center for Educator Success received $500 for the Early Childhood Winter Conference last year. For donations and sponsorships, we received a large number of passes from the Children's Museum of Houston for attendees at the Early Childhood Winter Conference, as well as sponsorships for the Procurement Division's iPass event. We submitted 12 bids this past year, which included Center for Educator Success, Center for Safe and Secure Schools, Therapy Services, and the Schools Divisions. Services offered include professional development, therapy services, supplemental special education services for schools, and the bids help us become an approved vendor and helps open the door for contracts with school districts. Other services included scoring art and writing entries for the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards program and providing grant workshops. We had several key highlights this past year. Number one was the acquisition of $6.2 million in grants for our Adult Ed program from the Texas Workforce Commission. The grants represent the first time our Adult Ed division has received funding directly from the Texas Workforce Commission instead of going through another entity. Another key highlight was acquisition of over $930,000 from the U.S. Department of Justice for the Stop School Violence grant for a behavioral threat assessment program. This is the second time we've been awarded the Stop School Violence grant. Another key highlight was the launch of our podcast series, Focus on Funding. The podcast features grant staff as well as special guests, such as the director of the Education Foundation, and we'll have more special guests in the future. Topics include grant writing, donor relations, corporate sponsorships, and other information on grants and fundraising. You can access the podcast from HCDE's homepage or on Spotify. Other highlights include a variety of successes for different HCDE programs and the Education Foundation, including contributing to the Foundation's luncheon with silent auction items, acquiring sponsors for CASE and CSSS training events, Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, and other activities to demonstrate that we are available to assist any way we can. We're happy that we've been able to maintain a high satisfaction rate with the divisions. This past year, our client satisfaction rate averaged 98.5% across all categories of specific services, which means we're meeting the division's needs to a large extent. And this is a visual of the client satisfaction rates ranging from 94% to 100% for our service categories. Looking ahead, we will examine any proposed shifts in funding that may affect our divisions and work closely with them to alleviate any adverse impacts. We'll continue to work with our programs to emphasize collaborations with higher ed, businesses, nonprofits, all of these to help strengthen and expand funding and services. And we'll also continue to implement diversified funding strategies to enhance and sustain programs. In sum, the Grants Office is working in different ways to generate resources to serve HCDE divisions and the community. What questions do you have?
Any questions from the board, Superintendent Colbert?
You have something?
Trust, oh, yes.
I would just like to say, really kudos to your leadership and your department. You know, I think what people don't realize the benefit of our grants department is it helps to support and protect our, especially our federal programs with compliance and meeting their funding needs. And you know, I know of so many entities that try to go out and seek grants and don't succeed at doing it. And we have a department, a division, who are experts in that matter. And so not only do they do that, but they also seek out opportunities to make our programs deeper and diversify them and to get into some other things. And so all we have to do is find something or say, hey, there's this, that, and the other to go out there. And a principal doesn't have to be the person that sits down and puts necessarily pen to paper. We've got a squad who will help us be able to do that. So I appreciate you and your division.
Thank you.
Trustee Cantu?
Yes, I too want to echo the sentiment from the superintendent and let you know that we greatly appreciate your work and the work of your team. 86% success rate is exceptional. It's a lot of money. I know some of these are long-standing grants from the federal government, but I am pleased to see the success in switching horses mid-ride from our local regional organization to going straight to the state for our adult ed funding. That's I'm very proud of us, the superintendent, and your work. And I just had a question regarding the I guess new funding from the DOJ for Safe and Secure Schools. We've got that 2 years in a row, you said?
It wasn't 2 years consecutively, but we have received it twice.
Okay, okay. But that is considered new funding?
Yes, we did skip a year in doing it. Yes, we're considering that new funding because it's a new program.
Okay.
We're not doing the same type of services.
Okay. And so is your department or division responsible for, like the superintendent mentioned, compliance type reports back to the funding source?
We do assist divisions when they have to submit a program report. We are there to help them follow through with that because that is very important.
Right. Is that some of the process involved spelled out in the 14-page manual that Dr. Amezcua puts together?
Yes, I believe so. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, great job. Okay. We appreciate your work and continue to bring us more money so we can do more for the community.
All
Thank
right, we will. Thank you.
Any other reports from board members? Any other reports from board members concerning attendance or participation in a board or HCDE related conference, event, activity, or committee? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to any report of the board committees. All right, then it's time for all the fanfare. We'll have the monthly financial reports. Dr. Mesqua.
Thank you. His favorite part. Okay, these are the financial highlights as of December 31st, 2024. All our information is posted on our website. I added a new slide this month, kind of gives you a synopsis of the entire report. $3 million more in revenue this month for taxes, no interest payments for the month, revenues at 22%, equity at 29.2%, donations at 37,836. Our value is holding strong at 661 billion. Choice has a benefit variance of 3.5 million so far. Foundation reserves so far as 541,000. And then I'll go later on through the small business report that is at 8%. And then the Irvington project, 87% year to date. And then the phase one project just pending retainage. So I added an outlook trend on finance, positive in revenues and stable expenditures, normal operations and on target, stable and ongoing. So our fund balance, as you heard, we will adjust this number that we're reporting, because this was estimated at that time. So that was 29.2. It is really 34.2 that we're going to be presenting, or after the CAFRA report is finalized. Again, right now we have 5.4 million in excess outflows versus inflows, which is why we need to have a fund balance in order to let us carry through the early months. Our ratios for the month as of December, percentage of fund balance at 109 versus 102. Our working capital strong at 29 million. Our unassigned fund balance at this point in time, 76% versus 82% from last year. No interest payments so far for the year. Our revenue to total ratio, we're at 10% versus 13% from last year. And our indirect cost ratio, we're at 4.5% versus 3.2% at the same time a year ago. Our fee for service ratio right now, we're at 23%. We're some fees that we still need to bill for the next semester. And our growth ratio is minus 26%, again, because we haven't billed in some of those contracts for the second part of the year. We haven't had any budget amendments. And our budget to actual ratio, we're at 22% versus actual in terms of revenues, and expenditures, we're on target at 33%. Now, the taxes, once we get the taxes in, we're going to be in line and above that for the rest of the fiscal year. Our donations report, we've received 37,836. And those are donations for CASE, after-school programs, AB West, business services, and Head Start programs. We are at 661 billion certified. We still have just 2.4 billion to be certified between now and the end of the year, so that we can get to the 665 billion projected for the year. This month we collected 3 million, and so next month you're going to see a big number right here that is going to be collected in the month of January. And so that's probably going to be our biggest month in the month of January, when we present the report to you in February. We are at 9.5% collection, and that's going to again go up as soon as we start getting the taxes in. Our disbursements are 407 disbursements, 702 transactions, 6 transfers, so
totaling 4.5 million, 91,444. All the cash register is, check register is posted on our website. The segment information data for CES, we're at 590,428. Records management, 371,628. And therapy at 1,322,820. Our schools are at 4,135,207. Choice Partners so far has transferred 3,528,947 as of December 31st. We don't have any budget amendments. In our foundation, we have 541,349 in various programs for the year. In terms of our lease revenue projects and payments, we have a small business program that we started last month, and this is for the first quarter. For the period of September 1 to December 31st, 2024, we have basically this is the content of this report. You have small business expenditures here today, and we have the different definitions of certifications. We have HUB, MBE, SBE, and WBE certifications that are participating. The certifying agencies include the City of Houston, Houston Metropolitan Transit, Port of Houston, and South Central Texas Regional Certification Agency. The first quarter for 24-25, we had 6% small business at 416,903, government and utilities 2,122,589 or 29%, and then non-small businesses are 4,828,513. When you divide small business to total business, it's a ratio of 8% so far for the first quarter between September and December. The small business amounts are generally certified through the City of Houston and Port of Houston, and you see the breakdown there between the two. In terms of the same breakdown, in terms of the type of certification, 36% is small business enterprise, 15% HUB, 46% MBE, and 3% WBE certification. In terms of the first quarter by ethnicity, we have 21% at 87,583 Asian, 28% or 115,771 Black, 3% Caucasian, 11,380, and 48%, 202,169 Hispanic, totaling for the first quarter, 416,903. These numbers, as we go through the year, will add them, and it'll be a cumulative effect as we move through the year. And so here's the list of the small businesses that make up the 416,000: Blue Knight Security, Butler, Durapeer, EMA Sport, HTS, Infrastructure, and SHI Government Solutions. In terms of our cash balance in the construction, we have $4,676,630 in the CIP from 2020, and we have retainage of $1,256,811, and for the 2024 retainage, we have $177,573, and the only thing that is spending on those 2020 projects is basically the release of the retainage. And then we have so far in terms of the Irvington, we have $5,141,000 in commitments and remaining available of $3,047,811. That is the highlights for the month of December. What questions do you have?
I just want to say I really like this presentation.
Thank you.
Very nice summary slide. I liked your summary slide at the
Yes,
beginning.
it sort of captures all the details. So.
Very good.
The next one is the investment report, and I'll try to do that next time for the investment report. And we have GTOT investment policy, and this just kind of gives you the Fed funds rate, what it has been. The last 3 months, we have decline in the Fed funds rate. As you can see, from March 22 all the way through September 24, there was an increase in the Fed funds rate, and then started the turnaround the last 3 months. So we'll look forward to the February meetings to see what's going to happen there with Fed funds rate. Our portfolio is total of $49,118,452. We still have $338,141 in PFC. The percentage by investment type, 45% is on Lone Star, 6% in Chase, 17% in Texas Class, 8% in Techstar, and 24% in TexPool. Part of the 338,000, 75% is in TexPool, and the remaining is in Bank of Texas. All our funds are overnight, and we're earning so far $810,116, and then the PFC $4,926, and we're earning 4.5 on the average on our funds. That's the report for the month of December for our investment portfolio. What questions do you have?
Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mesqua. All right, are there any consensus items that anyone needs to pull? Okay, so seeing none, do I have a motion to pass consensus items? Moved by Trustee McGee, seconded by Trustee Dick. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Motion passes 6-0. Action item, non-consensus item 8.2, consider approval of fiscal year 2024 through 2025 investment resolution for the annual review of HCDE's investment policy, broker-dealers, and investment trainers in accordance with the Public Funds Investment Acts. Do I have a motion? Motion by Trustee McGee, seconded by Trustee Dick. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 6-0. And with that, we move into executive session under the Texas Government Code pursuant to any and all purposes permitted by Section 551.001 through 551.084, including but not limited to 551.071, 551.074. At 2:12. Call this meeting back to order, coming back from executive session at 3:22 p.m. And do I have a motion to item 11? Oh, okay. Discussion and possible action regarding future agenda items. Oh, yes. Okay. We will have a special called meeting on the 31st to address Trustee Brown's resignation. And is there anything else that anybody wants to add discussion for future agenda items? Just to adjourn. Okay, so is that your motion, Trustee Dick? Yes. Motion by Trustee Dick, seconded by Trustee Davis. All in favor? All in favor? Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. At 3:23 p.m.